What does it really mean to be faithful when no one's watching? It's got to be one of the toughest questions in any faith journey. So today, we're going to dive into the story of Joseph to try and understand the quiet and, yeah, often painful cost of real obedience.
I mean, it's easy to talk a big game about faith when everything's going great, right? But what happens when you're asked to do something that's confusing or painful, or just goes against everything the world is telling you to do? That's the real test, and that's the question we're digging into today. For Joseph, this wasn't some theoretical exercise. The test came out of nowhere, and it turned his entire world completely upside down. Literally everything he had planned for his future was about to come crashing down. Let's just try to put ourselves in his shoes for a second. Joseph was a good guy, a righteous man. He was building a life, a future, with Mary, the woman he loved. His path probably seemed pretty clear, a path of honor, a good reputation in his community.
And then, bam, the news hits. Mary, the woman he was pledged to, his future wife, was pregnant. You can just feel the weight of that one sentence just crashing down on him. And then came the final blow. The child wasn't his. Can you even imagine the flood of emotions, the confusion, the absolute gut punch of grief, that crushing sense of betrayal? His whole life, his reputation, his heart, all of it was on the line.
Now this is where it gets so incredibly tough. He's got this impossible choice. On one side, you have his public reputation. I mean, what would people think? He could have reacted with anger, exposed Mary, and protected his own name. But on the other side was his private integrity. What he knew deep down was the right thing to do. This was a battle between what the world sees and who you really are. So, what does a good man do when he's backed into a corner like that? Well, right in the middle of this crisis, Joseph gets a message that changes everything. And that brings us to the turning point, the dream, and the decision that came after. An angel appears to him in a dream with this simple but incredibly profound message: do not be afraid. Now, that wasn't a command to just ignore his pain. It was more like an invitation to trust that there was a purpose here, something way bigger than what he could see. It was like a single ray of light cutting through all that chaos. And this is where you see the man's true character. Even with a broken heart, Joseph stayed open. He actually listened. And then he chose obedience, a choice that cost him his plans, his reputation, everything he thought he knew. He took Mary as his wife and he named the baby Jesus, exactly as he was told. Joseph's story is just such a powerful example of what this quiet obedience thing really is. So let's break that down. What does that phrase actually mean? At its core, quiet, costly obedience is a choice. It's the decision you make to honor God when it hurts, when it's confusing, and especially when there's zero external reward. This is a kind of faithfulness that isn't measured by what other people think, but by what you know is true in private. So, what does this powerful, unseen faithfulness actually look like? What are its characteristics in the real world? Just think about it for a second. This kind of obedience, it doesn't post its good deeds on social media, right? It doesn't get a round of applause or a pat on the back. It's that hard choice you make when you are all alone. It's that decision to stick to your integrity when nobody would even know if you compromised. It's really the ultimate expression of choosing to honor God over everything and everyone else. And here's the most encouraging part of all this. Your faithfulness in those quiet, hidden moments, it's not wasted. It matters. God sees it, and he is absolutely still working through people who choose to honor him when no one else is looking. Your quiet yes could be part of a much, much bigger story. Okay, so this brings the whole story right back to us, because while Joseph's situation was, well, pretty unique, the principle behind his choice is something we all face. So let's talk about your path. So I want you to just take a moment and really think about this. Is there a choice you're facing that feels costly? A situation where doing the right thing won't get you any credit, and maybe it'll even be misunderstood? Where is God asking for your quiet obedience right now? So where do you even start? It really begins with just one small step. First, just identify that hard, hidden area in your life. Just name it for yourself. Second, try to release your grip on the outcome and trust that there's a bigger purpose in play. And finally, just take one small, practical, obedient step.
It doesn't have to be some giant leap, just the next right thing.
So let's leave it with this. Let this be the thought that really sticks with you. Your faithfulness, especially in those quiet moments that nobody else on earth sees, it truly, truly matters. It is seen, it is valued, and it is part of a beautiful, unfolding purpose.